Mustang to the outside and Stephen Johnson. Tirana to the inside. Eddie Abel-Nisa steps out of line as well to get himself a better view. Oh, I thought maybe Richo smoked the tyres there for a second. The back end jagged out, and they're going to go nearly 4 wide on approach down towards turn 1. Mediki hangs into the high line. Bow will have the inside sit in the inside of his old Mustang, and he might be relegated back to 3rd here. No, Mediki just has no grip out wide. Bow takes that spot back off him, and he might even go further back.
Yeah, it looks like it. Andrew's got out on the marbly stuff, and once you get out on that marbly stuff, it's like driving in the dirt. You just got no grip, so he's lost quite a few spaces out of that. But Andrew, knowing that tenacity he's had, he'll come back through. But look at Gold Creek. He's gone in there a bit deep and got on the marbles, which has pushed him a bit wide, and that's hurt his race a little bit. He's fallen back quite a bit. But these two in front have just opened up a gap already. But look at the racing going on down the back here. Old Cricky's getting a bit sideways of Eddie Albanica, and
a little touch there, wasn't there, down there at turn 6?
Yeah, because of these cars have got a lot of power. They're in the vicinity of like 680 horsepower, and they've got a very small tyre on them, so you've got to be so gentle with the throttle to make sure that you don't buzz them up, particularly when they're cold on this first lap. And that's really what Greg got up the throttle a little bit early. She's got away a little bit, but no harm in it. That's all part of the racing.
So we bring them all back for the end of lap 1. That's a cool shot.
It is a great shot to see all these old girls going past at that sort of low level.
And what we're talking about 260 k's an hour before you jump on the middle pedal down there. So we are talking big speeds. Tilly Cameron, it is up the inside of Kasulki.
That's right. And the other thing, you talk about the speeds at the end of the straight, but these cars have only got very small brakes on them, so they're very difficult to pull up. And
that's cool.
There's old DJ watching the sun, having running out the front there. Yeah, DJ.
That's very cool.
And
indeed.
Also the old Johnson Bow at the front here is what he'd be remembering in the old days now, which is what this is all about.
He's the man that made the number 17 so famous in this country. Riding back on board with Stephen Johnson.
Looks like Stevie's sitting in that car like he's trying to open a Vegemite tin, doesn't he? He's sitting pretty close to the steering. He looks like a John Bow.
Well, he said he couldn't adjust it. He actually wanted to, but he was stuck with it
right?
The way it was and had to fend off.
But as you were saying earlier, that you're doing the 260, 270 at the end of the straight, and they're very small brakes on these cars. So after the first 2 or 3 or 4 laps, they're starting to run out of brakes. So that's where the interest comes into the race at the later stages with the lighter cars, which is the Tiranas and all the 5-litre cars are 150 kilos lighter. So they start to look after their brakes a bit better. So that's where the dicing starts to happen. So it'll be really interesting to see who can hang into their brakes and tyres over this race distance.
That might be something to think about later. With Bowen, oh no, Abel-Nisa loses the rear end, puts a massive dent on the right-hand driver's door. And again, Fish has been hit under brakes by another car.
Yeah, Eddie's gone in there a little bit deep, trying to go under Andrew, and you can see they lock the rears, which once you lock the rears in these cars, because they're so big and heavy, the momentum takes off really quickly, and it just gets away on you so quick, and that's what happened with Eddie just then.
Hopefully it's just damaged that one door. And I'll tell you what, the XY wore it. You had a nasty crash at Bathurst in an XY, and I thought that car actually held up pretty well in that accident too.
Actually, they're amazingly strong cars, the old XY. Yeah. Like I say, I hit the wall coming down Conrod at 280 k's an hour. Even though you think, holy smoke, that's going to be a huge crunch. But the car's actually repaired. It's actually not a new shell or anything, so they are a very tough car.
Here it is once again, talking through this one, Glenn.
Just got in the brakes a little bit late. You can see he's locked the rears. Once you lock the rears, it turns you around. He really couldn't do much. He was a passenger from then on. Eddie's mistake, and it's a shame for Andrew because Andrew was doing a great job up there where he was. So just one of those racing. Oh.
Bow, opportunistic under brakes.
This is where the lighter car will come to its fore now with lighter weight, better brakes, and a really good car, the SLR, for this class.
Look at the Mustang hauling through turns 2, 3, 4, and now down towards turn 5.
I'll tell you what, I don't think Stevie's given up yet. He'll be back. He's trying hard to get back at Bowie, and there'll be the old Johnson rivalry past. It'll be coming back.
Well, he said that back in the days when his dad was teammates with John Bowe, there was never team orders. And he's convinced that he and JB are going to race for it this weekend.
Yeah, you can see just by the vision out of Steve's car that where the strong points are of John's cars, carrying it through those little bit higher speed corners. The car's really balanced well, and where the heavier car, which is the Mustang, it's 1,600 kilos, they take a bit to get around the corners and they move around a bit. So that's where Johns with the lighter cars has got that advantage over it. But still, great race.
You'd think that Mustang in a straight line would be really pulling the old 308 back, but that just shows you just how good that 5-litre motor is. Maybe just at the very end of the straight.
Nothing in them down the straight, which is amazing. Like I say, the Torana's got the old Holden 308 in it. They still make pretty good power, and it just showed it down the straight. It's as equal as the big Mustang with the 6-litre engine.
Linden Little Race Engines building that 308, strapping it into that Bendigo Retro Muscle Car business built car of Gary O'Brien.
And it's a beautifully built car. When you see it in the pits, it's just a work of art that they've put into it. And a lot of these cars at the front are the workmanship in them are really, it's old technology, but it's late model innovations into them to make them probably a bit like a supercar from the older days, really.
Very much so. If you put one of these cars back in 1970, they would have absolutely chopped up.
Here comes Eddie. He may have got a drive-through penalty for the situation down into turn 1, because naturally he caused Andrew to run off the circuit. But
that's probably fair. Although, have a look at this. We've still got Miedeke and Richards floating about here.
Yeah, and Jimmy's cars has been in the past very strong from mid-race on. So it'll be interesting to see Jimmy's.
There's an old famous race cam shot.
I think John might have throttled out there to let Stevie back through, I think. But yeah, it'll be amongst these 4 guys as the race goes on. It'll get closer, and like I say, Jimmy's car's quite strong at the end of the race, so it'll be interesting to see if he can get back up there and tussle for the lead. Because these 4 guys are in a league of their own, though. When you look at the distance behind, they're like at the end of the day, they're professional race drivers in the past, and they've got really good cars. And that's the fun thing about this category, that you can come back after you've done your professional career and still have enjoyment of racing, and also have this competition amongst all us past racers that all race together in the day. So it's really enjoyable.
Now here's Cam Mason trying to find his way back through the field after taking the keys away from Dad.
This will be pretty hard for Cam, because he's naturally been in the Mustang for yesterday and today. Straight away he's had to readapt to a completely different car for today, which is the Camaro. Much heavier car, more horsepower, so it's going to be harder on the brakes, and he's got to readapt in a very short amount of time, like 10-lap race, and he's got to readapt to what that car likes as you change your driving style to suit the balance of the car. So this will be pretty hard for Cam, but good, because you get to learn so much out of driving different cars all the time.
Very true.
Look at these guys here. 3 are getting pretty close together now.
Yeah, Miedeke's really worked hard these last couple of laps to close that gap. 1:13.8's the fastest of the race so far for John Bowe. 2 seconds under last year's lap record.
Yeah, it's amazing. Look, not only the technology of the cars have moved forward with speed, but it's more the resurfacing here. It's in the past, it's been quite abrasive surface and hard on tyres, so when the surface is quite abrasive, you don't have a lot of grip, so the lap times aren't quite there. But now the resurfacing this year, it's just lifted the lap times. There goes. Oh, that looked like Cricky, actually. I reckon that was Cricky in the Valiant. It's a black car.
And you've called that well. Big Belgian flame underneath.
Yeah, it sure is.
Now,
it's got a bit of a bent bumper bar there too, but Greg's had like in Tasmania, I remember this year, and same with myself, had a little bit of trouble with the brakes on these cars running out of fronts, and that may have what's happened to Greg just there. He's come in there, until we see the replay, it's hard to tell, but he's got a little.
Now
she's a dusty Charger now.
Yeah, it's gone in there hard enough to rip that front bumper off. So hopefully it hasn't done any damage underneath that car. As Bowe gets defensive on the way down towards turn 1 at the last minute. Miedeke thought about it. Bowe covered him. How about the pedigree of these 4 at the front? Stephen Johnson, John Bowe, Andrew Miedeke and Jim Richards, with plenty of races under the V8 Supercars and Australian Touring Car Championship collective belts. Awesome to watch. Now, I don't want to go putting you totally on the spot here, but you've raced against all 4 of these guys in the Australian Touring Car Championship, or V8 Supercars as it's known now. Which one was the toughest to pass?
Well, most of my career was raced with Jimmy and John Bowe. And whoops, there's poor King.
Oh dear.
Looked like he got a bit of a touch-up by someone then.
Well, he's got a fair bit of damage on the right-hand door here.
Yeah. But John was no doubt, in the time that I was racing at the prime, I suppose, was probably my hardest competitor, to be honest. John is very...
This has started a long time ago.
It has. It started entering
King up the inside of Karen Folosky. That's a fair old hip and shoulder there. The door comes open, and Karen Folosky gathers it back up. Was there a return of serve?
It's,
Can he get it closed? Was he trying to get the door closed and lost it?
That's exactly.
He has.
He's got the big tank slapper trying to close the door.
Oh no, right in front as well of Karen Folosky, who would have enjoyed the sight.
That's probably one that Mark will want to forget, that's for sure, Mark King. But,
that's a bit of a clanger.
Yeah, but talking about the guys, the four guys racing, there's always competition between the Johnson Bow team and also my team and Alan Jones. Bowie I always found was a very, very hard racer, very, very good car sorter, and he was always up at the top all the time. But Jimmy was also the same. He was also very tough competitor, great to race with, both of them, and I really enjoyed the time racing with those two guys and the toughness that it was. And Steve, fantastic. He should be really still racing the main game today because he's still got the ability, and particularly in the endurance races. Steve really lifts when it comes to the enduros. And
here we go. We've got 1 lap to go here, Glenn, and this is going to be a proper grandstand finish. Bow was desperate to get a good exit onto the front straight here, so he could use the lighter car to his advantage. Under brakes down to turn 1. Is he close enough? He'll have to be pretty willing from that far back.
Yeah, I think Steve's a pretty smart racer, so he'll make this Mustang pretty wide for this last lap. Wonder if there's going to be a form finish here.
Maybe.
1, 2, side by side.
They don't have time to back off and do it, that's for sure. Now, if there's ever been a good mentor to teach you how to make a car nice and wide, it's John Bow.
He has had a pass to that, that's for sure. And John's always been known as the hardest car to pass. He's always had the widest car because he'd always drive down the inside of the road. But, hey, you're allowed to do that.
He'll be ruining every single tip he's given Stephen Johnson across the years right now.
They've just got to be careful, these two guys, of tussling with too much of each other, because Andrew's there to pounce as well, and Andrew will look for every gap that he can find. But it's pretty even when you see these four guys that are this close together at the end of 10 laps with completely different manufacturer cars. When you look at all this, it just shows you the level of competition in this category, and also the parity in this category is pretty close.
Here we go. The run down towards the finish line. And there'll be 1 to go this time by. I didn't see a checkered flag. There it is now, thank you. I was looking out the window and the checkered flag came out late. But we got it eventually. And we've got smoke coming out of Gavin Bullis' car here in 6th. And that looks similar to what happened to him at Symmons Plains for mine.
Yeah, it's looking like it's either around the oil line area or maybe even a power steering or something like that, because it seems to be coming around the engine bay area. But
he's going to get that
he's pulled off pretty quick. So
Mason's race has ended in spectacular fashion down at turn 6. Can he get it home and avoid the DNF? So Stephen Johnson's won the race, and it's all kicking off after the flag here.
It usually is most of the time. You usually have all these desperates happen on the last lap, and these things happen. But yeah, there's a bit of smoke coming out underneath that car. It looks like it's around the engine area, maybe even power steering area. So it's naturally not too terminal, because naturally Gavin wouldn't be able to drive it to the end like he did.
That was a very quick 10 laps. Stephen Johnson gets the win, and only 1.8 seconds covering that front 4. Very entertaining race. Stephen Johnson still undefeated in Touring Car Masters. 100% record continues in Mustang Sally. And an interesting one for the championship, this one as well. Jim Richards and Andy Medici will both get some points back here on Gavin Bullis.